This live stream is brought to you by Stihl and Evergreen Garden Care. Stihl is Australia's most trusted brand of garden power tools, backed by 95 years of German engineering excellence. To get your hands on their range, visit your local Stihl dealer today or visit stihl.com.au. Evergreen Garden Care and their market-leading brands are some of the best-known and trusted consumer brands within the garden care market. To be inspired and easily create and maintain your garden, head to lovethegarden.com.
Garden Express are Australia's leading mail-order gardening service, offering a wide range of quality garden products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show you jump online and visit their website.
Hi, good morning. I'm Joanne Harris and welcome to the Garden Gurus on this gorgeous autumn day. I'm filling in for Trevor today, and we've got a fabulous show ahead of you. There's Mother's Day, of course, is to be sorted out. Have you got it sorted out? If not, we've got David Van Berkel from Garden Express joining us with a fabulous deal that will help you with that. I've got some good ideas along the line too. Now it's time to get into your garden, get your garden winter ready. So we've got some good, interesting articles to show you how you can do that. And later I'll share my plant of the week. As always, we'll be answering your garden questions with plenty of prizes to be won. Please make sure, don't forget to put in your state and even the suburb and city where you're living so that I can help direct that question best to you. And make sure you hit the like button. So let's start off with some questions straight away. Let's get into them. And I hope we can answer as many as possible this week and get through them. We are constantly almost drowning in questions. So if we don't get to your question, don't forget we're on again next week. Anyway, Belinda from Minchinbury, Western Sydney, and there's a picture attached here, so that'll come up. After all the rain, she thinks that her umbrella tree has drowned. It's normally full and dark green and healthy, but it's lost so many leaves. It's half the tree that it used to be. And so, look, I've had a look at the photo and you can see here that it's a very open tree, whereas normally the umbrella trees or the are very full and very lush. It's going to be hard. I'm assuming this would be from the rains that we've had recently. There's not a lot you can do about it. You can try and dry the soil out. If it was in a pot, I would suggest that you could repot it, but of course it's not, it's in the ground. So it's going to be hard to change. And it looks like it might be in a fairly sheltered position, which means that the soil's not going to dry out quickly and you could end up with a root rot. I would suggest that maybe you try getting something like Ritter Rot. It's or go and see your garden centre and they'll tell you exactly what you need to get for root rot, but certainly Ritter Rot will do it for you. And that may help, it may stop it. If more than a quarter of your tree, of the root system has gone mushy, you probably don't have a lot of choice but to pull that out and start again with something new. Good luck, Belinda. I hope that goes well. So then we move on to Whyalla in South Australia, and Kylie would like to know, how do I get rid of my family of large grasshoppers in my yard? The creatures range from 1 inch up to 3 inches. Large ones have been there over a year and causing damage to many of my plants, flowers and vegetables, and can I help? We have those here in West Australia too, and I think that they're pretty much across the country at the moment. And they're huge, aren't they, the cicadas? I actually send my grandchildren out to pick them, and I've got a few staff members at the garden centre who like grabbing them. It's awful, but what we do is we grab them, throw them in the freezer, and then feed them to the chooks and things like that. So it's really a matter of hand taking them off. There is a product called... it's a grasshopper killer, and it's a product that's made by a company, and I cannot remember. It'll come to me as I keep talking, But you can use something like that for cricket and grasshopper bait is what it's called. So you may be able to get some of that in your local garden centre or hardware shop. And I tend to, it is a poison, and it's got bran is its main ingredient. So it will attract other animals, and you don't want to affect the native animals, especially around that are scurrying around your garden. So I tend to put it into a piece of PVC piping, and you leave the ends open, and it will attract them in. So that the bran is what will attract them to it. Then the grasshopper will eat that and take them off. Otherwise, get yourself some young people that might go out and keep picking them off for you. So then we move to Tyson. Oh, good morning, Tyson. Tyson's from Baronia in Victoria. He's one of our regular viewers. Thanks for coming on again, Tyson. And you're wondering, can I put bok choy seeds into my garden bed? And can I please give you some tips and advice? Well, look, bok choy seeds are really easy to grow. So yes, you can. I tend to put seeds into a seed raising mix in a seed tray to start with, and then I transplant in. I just find I have a lot better success with that. And I use sea salt, use a half-strength sea salt to make sure the soil is working well for them, and you are also developing good, strong root system with that. But one of the things I wanted to say to you, Tyson, was that if you go onto a site, if you Google Eden Seeds and go onto their site, they have a fabulous list of seeds to grow in summer, seeds to grow in winter, and they've even got seeds for most of Australia, and then seeds for the tropics also. You'd go for the first one, obviously. But it would be a really good idea. You could access that, and it'll certainly help you with what you can plant and when you can plant it. So thanks for tuning in again, though, Tyson. It's great to have you on the show. Amara is in Swanview, WA. That's not far from us here. And I have a small lime green magnolia from previous owners situated close to a kumquat. Has always been beautiful and healthy, but after a few heat waves over the summer, I thought it was bouncing back, but seems to be fading to the heavens. What shall I do? We had a pretty hot summer, like a very hot summer. And if you notice that the leaves, most of the leaves that are dying or that have died are from the base upwards, and they're on the outside of the plant. You've got this planted very close to the driveway, and I would think that there is a fair bit of heat coming up from the ground. So what I would suggest is that now that the weather has changed, you can tip prune those. Don't do it when it's summer. So if the season's hot and this happens again to any of your plants, don't tip prune them off. Leave the sunburnt leaves on your tree. And what they will do is protect any new growth coming through. But yes, now you could start taking those off, because a dead leaf or a sunburnt leaf is even partially sunburnt is not going to recover. So yeah, you can certainly take them off. And I would suggest that next summer, if we are unfortunate enough to have the same type of summer that we had this year, I would suggest that you look at your watering regime and make sure that you've got enough water going in to the plant, because that will certainly help it with all the reflected heat that you've got in that area. Beautiful trees, though. It should grow into a really nice tree if it's well looked after. Now we've got Dorothy, and unfortunately we don't know where Dorothy's from, but can a banana tree survive outside the zone 7B in the US? I love this plant. Dorothy, I'm not sure. I really don't know. I don't know that particular banana tree, and I'm not sure where you are, so I really can't give you an answer. Dorothy, can you get back to us next week with where you are? And I'll do a little bit of research for you and we'll see what we can come up with. Roberta. So we're down in Rockingham now, and Rockingham's just south of Perth, and it's on the coast. We've got a picture attached, and she says, I'm seeking advice on a cycad that my dad has in his front garden. He actually has two of them, only meters away from each other, but one is really struggling. They're over 25 years old. but in recent years have started to go brown. He doesn't know if it's some sort of mite or bug or if it's from the ground. It's hard to know. There's a number of different things that it could be, Roberta. Cycads are amazing trees. They can live for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they say they were around in the dinosaur age. However, there's a few things that they really must have. They want to have a good, well-drained soil. They will not take clay. Now, Rockingham, I don't imagine you've got clay down there, so I think we can disregard that. However, make sure the soil is well drained. Now, something else that can happen with cycads is if you tend to water those at night time, then the water can splash onto the leaves and that can cause trouble for them too. So ask your dad if he's watering during the daytime. I think it's much better. Keep in mind also that plants are like trees. Plants are trees. Plants are like trees. Plants are like children or adults. They're like human beings. They're individuals. So you can have one a metre apart and you still will have problems with one and not the other one. So like one child can suffer from sore throats and the other one never gets a problem. Same with plants. So you need to look at the individual plant and the area and how you're treating it. It could in fact be a scale, but I think if you would see the scale. So the other thing, you'd see the scale. It comes on the main stem and on the leaflets. But I think you'll find that it's possibly sunburn. I feel like when I looked at the photo that one looks like it's in more shade than the other. Not sure because we can't discuss it, but I think that might be the problem. It may well be because it's sunburnt. There is a cycad. You can also get cycad scale, but you can get a palm fertilizer that will help. If you use a palm fertilizer I'm not sure what sort of fertilizer you're using, but if you use a palm fertilizer, it's developed with manganese. There's lots of manganese and potash in it. And cycads and palms can really, they can be affected by low manganese. And we know our sandy soils here in Perth have got very little trace elements in it. So perhaps it might be a good idea to consider that and put some trace elements on it. Go out and get yourself some Sabrinahan trace and you'll find you can spray that on. Alternatively, if the frond is dying, it's a good idea to cut that frond off because the plant will put all its energy into that frond and try and help it rather than grow. So perhaps a prune might be a good idea also. That was an interesting, really interesting question. I've seen a lot of palms and a lot of cycads this year have the same problem. So now we're off to South Australia in the Adelaide Hills with Sam, and he's via YouTube. He says he loves this podcast and he listens every week. Thanks very much, Sam. We really appreciate it. Just wanted to know if it's the best time to transplant a citrus tree. For me, I would transplant a citrus tree in spring. So make sure that you're in the Adelaide Hills, so you're going to have possibly some frost. So you want to make sure that you're well away from the frost and in the growing season. And that's when citrus grow, is in the warmer climates. So do it before the really hot summer comes along, and you should be fine with it. Dig out to as far as the root system as far as the tree canopy is, which is what we call the drip line. So then you can dig a trench around that, put some sea salt in it, and feed it up with some good water for a couple of days, and then dig down as deep as you can. If you can't get a lot of root system out, or if the tree has a small root system, then it's well worth pruning the tree back to the size of the root system before you plant it on. But it's possible, and it's well worth using some sea salt just to help the tree settle in. So off to Ingham in northern Queensland, and Doug is wondering if we can help tell us, is this just sunburn on my avocado tree as it's darkening only on the west-facing side, or could it be for the root rot or phytophthora, which is what avocados do tend to suffer from? Look, from looking at your picture here, I would think that you're right, that you've guessed that it's sunburn, and I would think that it is sunburn. Generally, when you've got a phytophthora or a dieback in your avocado, it generally comes from the top. So it comes from the stems and works its way down. So I would think that is. I love the fact that you've got some really good foliage, really good mulch on there. The foliage looks really healthy, but I noticed that it's also next to a dark fence. So it might be that you need to maybe for the next couple of years, it's a young tree I can see that you've got. So maybe for the next couple of years, it'd be a good idea to perhaps drape something over the fence directly behind the avocado. Might not look so great for a couple of years, but it'll stop the sun from beating down on the stems and causing sunburn. Okay, and then Amber, who's also, we don't know where you're from, what is the latest I can prune a bottle brush to shape it? Look, you can keep pruning right up until the weather starts getting colder. They're pretty hardy things. I tend to do mine when they're starting to, the growth is happening again. So for me in West Australia, I tend to do it in after spring, in the early times when the plants are starting to take off again. And I think rule of thumb for the rest of Australia really too. Just keep in mind you don't want to, certainly don't want to prune when the frost starts coming in. So if you're getting really cold mornings and you're noticing it, I wouldn't consider pruning it until later. All right. So we've got Mother's Day coming up, and there's some great ideas. So we're going to join Garden Express, who never leave us disappointed and never leave you disappointed either. We were going to talk about some fuchsias this morning, but of course the deal was so fantastic. We've changed and we've now come up with something even better, but we're looking at spring bulbs. So welcome to the show, David. It's nice to speak to you again.
Morning, Joanne. How are you going?
Really well, thank you. It's a wonderful day here. Just before we start, I want to congratulate you on your display at the Melbourne Garden and Flower Show. It was fantastic. I didn't get there this year, but from all accounts and from what I've seen of photos, it was fantastic. So congratulations.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, the flower show was an amazing event, and we had so much fun, as we touched on with Trevor last week. And I'm getting that feedback from a few other people around town as well, which is really rewarding when you put in the effort that we all do to go there and present. So yeah, beautiful.
It's a massive effort. But Garden Express put in a massive effort for everything they do, to be honest, without being corny about it. I love what you've got on offer this week for us for Mother's Day.
Yeah, look, we as you said, we had a beautiful collection of fuchsias, and they were incredibly popular at the flower show as well. And this weekend, we've sold all of the kits off the back of the TV show. So we were meant to be talking about it today, and they're all gone. I think we're on for a few more weeks before we get another range of fuchsias coming in. So keep your eye out for them. All these not lost.
Absolutely. Great.
Yeah, but today,
yep. Please go ahead.
Yep, today we've got for you the last of our Flower Fest spring bulbs. So the flower show and then the online Flower Fest have been selling really well. But we've got some of these beautiful value packs that we're keeping online just for today. And we've got some really good value. These are valued we've got 15 to 20 bulbs, Dutch iris, daffodils, jonquils, valued up to $28. And today only we're doing them for $9 a pack.
That's amazing. But that's also delivered into the house, into the person's house, or is there delivery on top of that?
Plus the delivery fee. I think our basic delivery fees.
I was thinking it would have to have been, David. I mean, that's just a crazy price for bulbs. I often give bulbs at Easter time, but I think Mother's Day time is a great time to give bulbs. And when you're only paying $9 plus freight for that many bulbs, you could probably add in for your mum a bulb planter and a pair of gloves also.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's plenty of the hardware lines that make really good gifts. We've got the beautiful baskets still available,
Oh,
and you
yes.
can fill a basket with the bulbs as well. So but the show bags, sorry, not the show bags, the value packs, they're just for today
Yeah.
for the viewers and listeners today.
All right, so everyone get onto the website of Garden Express and get your order in, because this isn't going to last. I can tell you now, it won't last. And thank you, David. You always come up with something fantastic. I really appreciate it. And you've got to remember that Garden Express have top quality products. So you're not only getting something at a cheap price, you're really getting a good quality plant too.
Yep,
Thanks very much.
absolutely. Thanks, Joanne. It's beautiful.
Thanks very much, David. Nice to speak to you again. Yeah, really, people, you've got to get on there and get that bike, because this won't last. I sell David's bulbs in our shop, and I feel very comfortable selling them because I know the quality is there. Okay, so we're going to move on today, and Susan is in Maleny, Queensland. What a beautiful part of the country, Susan. Should I put my bulbs in yet? Look, I would probably make sure that the hot days are gone. I'm not sure what Maleny, it's a little bit higher. I think probably yes, having said gone around that in a roundabout way. So yes, you probably could put your bulbs in. I'd hold off if you're going to do some tulips, hold off a little bit longer. Otherwise, yes, get them in. So then we're moving on to Jenny, and Jenny's in Walstead, New South Wales. My daughter has a lemon tree in a pot. It's 3 years old and has green lemons on it. She's wondering why the lemons have not gone yellow. We've not had a lot of sun lately. Well, you've given me some really good information in there, Jenny, because the fact that you and really dull days will probably have slowed up the lemons from maturing into yellow. Hold on, wait. But when I look at the photo also, I can see that there is some leaves that look like they're missing some good trace elements. So your plant is going to be better off if you also give it some trace elements, and you can do that while it's a liquid trace element, certainly on the foliage while it's fruiting will still help, and it will help boost it on and make those lemons mature for you. Okay, so Donna. Okay, guys, I need to remind you, please put your suburb and your state and suburb, because then I can direct the question to your area. Remember, we're going nationwide. But I'll give this a try. Donna just wanted to know why her Nelly Kelly is not growing. Leaves are dropping after going yellow, and she's planted 4 plants north facing, and only one is growing well and not the others. Okay, so with your passion fruit, you can find that if you don't water it on a consistent basis, it can start dropping. So if you're in an area where you've had to do some hand watering or you're reticking it, and again, I know that it's each individual plant, they're individuals. So you can find that even though you've got them in a row, each area can be a bit different. And you might find that when you prepared the soil, one wasn't, the 3 weren't prepared as well as the other one. Or you might find that you've got some mites. So mites will affect passion fruit. So have a look for them. Red spider mite is what generally comes on passion fruit, and you'll find that you can see the webbing. So look on the leaves, the underside of the leaves, and see if you can see the webbing. Mites are so tiny you generally won't see them. There's a very good website called Bugs for Bugs, and you can log onto that and then put in the bug that you've got or possibly got in this case, and it will give you the good bug, the predator insect that you need. So yeah, that might be a way to deal with it also. Otherwise, look at your watering and see how that's being handled. Okay, so Peter's in Brisbane. So we're back up in Brisbane in Queensland, and she's wondering if anyone can please help me with my lemon tree. She's an old tree, always bearing beautiful, big, juicy fruit, but most of the crop comes out with an almost scale-looking skin. I've been battling gall wasps and feel I've finally beaten those, but the skin keeps happening. Today, while picking some ripe fruit, I noticed a few leaves were rusty-looking spots. I've noticed them before. So you're quite right, and it's good that you've shown us the rusty spots on that photo also, because that's what it is. You'll find that it's a citrus rust, and it's a mite, and the mite will actually pierce the skin of the lemon as it's growing, and that's why you get that covering, that rusty covering over it. So again, you can go to somewhere like Bugs for Bugs and bring in some bugs and do it naturally. Otherwise, I think you'll find that pest oil, eco oil, any of the horticultural oils will do it for you, and they'll certainly help with the rust. But yeah, you'll need to get rid of the mites. You're really lucky that your plant keeps. You must have a very healthy plant at the same time, because it's continuing to produce fruit for you. All right, so we're going to Balcombe Hills, and there's a picture attached, and she's wanting to know what the tree is. I think your name is Matiha. I'm sorry, last week I pronounced something wrong, really wrong, and I'm a bit afraid to do that again today, but I think it's Matiha. And anyway, Matiha lives in Balcombe Hills, and the tree that we're looking at now, I think you'll find that is a Chinese tallow. Looks a bit like a tallow from the bark, although it's a little bit hard. There's also a Euphorbia cotinifolia, I think it is, that it may be. Does the plant change colour when in the wintertime? If you get good yellows and golden colours and reds and really deep burgundy colours, then it's more likely to be a Chinese tallow. If it goes just a beautiful burgundy colour, then it would probably be the cotinifolia. So, Alan, you guys are giving me a hard time today. Alan, I don't know where you're from either. Can you please give me the quantities of water, sugar and Vegemite? Well, it doesn't matter where you are, is it? I actually don't use the water, sugar and Vegemite one. I used to, but I tend to find that if you use a cup of cider vinegar, it's actually really effective. And you just put the cider vinegar in, and I usually put a couple of drops of horticultural soap into it also, and that just helps it. So yeah, use that. You can actually spray it onto one side of the tree also, and that will attract, and then hang the bait in that side of the tree, and that will help attract the insects to that part of the tree and into it. So yeah, use the bait. It's great using a natural bait, but also spray the tree on one side, the side you're going to, or the part where you're going to hang it. Tala from Leederville in New South Wales, just round the corner. What's the best full sun ground cover to survive cracker frosts and harsh Aussie summers? Right. Okay, Tala, you must have a house down south or something, because we don't get cracker frosts in Leederville. Oh, Leederville, it's I beg your pardon, we're in Leadville, New South Wales. I've done it again. Okay, so Tala, yeah, okay, so you do get frost there and hot summers. There's a couple of really good native ones. I like Myoporum. It's a very pretty native and will certainly survive. And the other one that's really tough is Hemiandra. So Hemiandra is the snake vine. That's a really good one also, and that'll certainly survive the frosts. Otherwise, you could always try the Traculospermum flatmat, which is a ground cover Chinese star jasmine, and I know that will take a frost also, so you could always try that. Okay, so now we're at Natalie is at Seaford in Victoria on the Bayside. Recently planted 2 trees in my garden, a weeping cherry and a crepe myrtle. Both are brought home in the back of a trailer uncovered. Ugh. The weeping cherry looked very sad when we got home, and the leaves had shriveled up and not really since not looking better since. What can you do to help it? I see this all the time. We're constantly saying to clients, drop your trees down. We actually cover the tree with newspaper so that you can put the tree inside your car, even if it's in the well of the front seat and coming back into it, or if it's a bigger tree like you've got with the weeping cherry, then you have to drop it down on your trailer or on the back of your utility. Anything, it's kind of like, can you imagine putting a child up on a boat and putting it up above the windscreen and the wind hitting it? It's going to burn. So what you've essentially done is burnt your tree and burnt it quite badly. I would suggest that, fortunately, the leaves are going to fall off, and I'm hoping that it hasn't damaged the branches and the trunk, and certainly it won't have damaged the root system. So if you treat this tree well, if you've planted it well and you've given it adequate water, that's excellent. I would give it some sea salt. The leaves are going to fall off of both of the trees soon. So you're going to get nice new leaves, and it'll forgive you for the awful ride home. Okay, so, and look, use some sea salt. That's something that will always help address those sort of issues. Okay, so now's the time to get prepared for winter, and the team at Stihl can help you show you how. Enjoy this.
So I've headed into my local Stihl dealer. Now Brett's going to help me out because I'm looking for a line trimmer. Now Brett, my backyard's not a huge backyard. I've probably got 150, 200 square metres of lawn. I'm really looking to just keep it finely manicured. What's the best line trimming option?
So you've got a few options. First of all, you need to work out whether you're going to go battery or you're going to go with the petrol models. Our entry-level model, you start off with the FS38. This is a great entry-level model. Just you run about your trim ups. It puts out 0.65 of a kilowatt. Now, if you have grass that gets a little bit higher or you want that little bit more power, we step up to the FS45. It's got the same displacement motor, except for it puts out 0.75 of a kilowatt. So that's just giving you that little bit more power.
There's a bent shaft and a straight shaft. What's the difference?
The difference between these is it has a bend in the shaft which goes into a bearing housing. With a straight shaft, very popular in your commercial models, and also taller people find that these work really well because they got a straight shaft down into a gearbox, which allows you to have more options.
Far better for the commercial operator.
Definitely.
All right, I think I've worked it out. What line trimmer do you need? Well, the place to find out is from people like Brett here in your local Stihl dealer.
Hi again. Look, Stihl have some great products. I use Stihl at the garden centre for all of our equipment, and they last a long time. They work well. Trevor's got it all covered for you. So head down to the Stihl shop if you're needing to replace or buy anything new for the garden. So we've got that time again. We were at the plant of the week, and as usual, I couldn't stick to one. I bought 3. And I was inspired last week when the weather changed, and I thought, oh, it's time for soup. So I got out a soup recipe and thought, well, I'll do a vegetable soup, and what am I going to do with it? And what I had in my fridge was I had some turmeric and some garlic and some ginger, and I thought, well, I'll use those as the base, and it was fabulous. You should Google it. It's great soup. So what we're going to do this week is we've got garlic, we've got some turmeric, and we've got some ginger. So they're all relatively easy to grow. The garlic cloves, this is when you must plant your garlic now. And I've bought some cloves. This is how we sell them. In bags, they're about 180 grams. Really nice. The ones I've got I love because this is from a farm that don't spray and it's organically grown. So it's great. You plant So here's the bulb, and you're going to plant it the blunt end down with the pointy end up, and plant it 15 centimetres down in the ground, 15 centimetres apart from each bulb, from each clove. And I always like to leave a bit of space in between so that you can walk through the area, but also so that you can ensure that there's no weeds. You can get rid of the weeds without pulling the bulb also. A garlic takes approximately 9 to 10 months. So you plant it now in April, and then you'll harvest it in summertime. Fabulous thing and really easy to grow. So there's nothing better than a fresh bulb of garlic. So the other one, though, that I've started growing recently is ginger. And I'm really enjoying this. It's an easy one to grow. Ginger is a rhizome, very similar to turmeric. And you can plant these in pots. I've got mine in raised garden beds for the ease of that, and I've put in most of my tubers into that garden bed. I've also got some artichokes, the Jerusalem artichokes in there. So tubers are not really a root. The root comes off the tuber, but the tubers like to grow in one direction also. So with something like ginger, you need to have a wide vessel if you're going to do it in a pot, because they'll keep growing in one direction. And if you had something like a, say, 40 or 50 centimetre pot, you could probably put, say, 7 good-sized rhizomes in them. Make sure that those rhizomes have got really good eyes on them, so that's the shoots, so that they continue to shoot. These take 10 to 11, usually about 10 months for the time for when you can then harvest it. And you'll find that the foliage will go very yellow and start to die down, and then you can start picking your rhizomes, collecting them. You can replant those rhizomes too, so you can keep them. If you're living in an area where it's a bit colder, then you can always lift all the rhizomes, keep a few of them for next year's planting, and on you go again. So you've constantly got rhizomes to plant. They're not heavy feeders, but they do like to be fed. So make sure that you give them a good sea soil when you plant them, and then a good fertilizer once a month is always wise. So I've also got here, and I'll show you. Oh, let's get that down a little bit for you. Okay, so some of the leaves are not looking so great. We've had a pretty hard summer here. However, what we have got in this also is, you'll see a very small root coming out here, plant leaf coming out here. And I don't know if you can see, but my pot is actually becoming elongated. And that's that same thing where rhizomes will grow in one direction. So with turmeric, you can grow it. You need to grow it in a deeper pot also. Garlic and ginger can be grown in a wide and lower, more like a bowl even. But turmeric grows very long roots down from the tuber. So you need to have a nice, big, deep pot and a wide pot to be able to put it in. They're quite aggressive growers. So, make sure you have a nice big pot. You'll harvest them at the same time as ginger. They need about 4 or 5 hours sunlight. And one thing with these plants, both the turmeric and the ginger, not the garlic, but the turmeric and the ginger will go dormant when it's below 20. So if you plant, in fact, even garlic will go dormant in a really cold area. So if you plant them now and you don't see anything really happening, nothing's coming up through the surface of the soil, don't worry about that. It just means that they're putting all their energy into their root, into the bulb or the tuber, and that's a good thing. Okay, so continue with what you need to do. Fertilize it monthly. They do love humidity too, because they're a tropical and subtropical plant, the ginger and the turmeric. So like you put out bowls of water for your insects and the birds, I also put out bowls of water around my plants like that. And that way the humidity, as that as the water evaporates, it gives humidity for the plants. So yes, it's winter time, and maybe not this year. You'll be making soup with your own garlic, turmeric, and ginger. But certainly by next year, if you plant them now, you'll have them, and by next winter, you'll have a wonderful fresh crop to be able to fill your pantry with. So yeah, get down to your garden centre and see if you can't buy some of those. You might find if you're in Melbourne or Tasmania that these are going to be harder to get, and it will be only through the summertime that you can access those plants. For those of you that don't have access to them, you can buy the tubers of and the bulbs of garlic, the tubers of either of the ginger or the turmeric. But when you do, just be careful that you buy really fresh, and that it has on the tuber has some good eyes. If it doesn't have some good eyes, it's not going to sprout for you, and then you'll be disappointed. So that's our plant of the week, or plants of the week for today, which takes us into the next question, because Marilyn, who lives in Perth, she's at Shenton Park, and she has a white flowering ginger that didn't flower, and she's wondering what to do with the stems of those. Well, I'm not sure you need to do much with the stems of those. You'll find that the white flowering one, you can prune it back, Marilyn. I would wait. No, I would be doing that now. So you could prune those off, but you want to make sure that you've got some good stems coming up, that the tubers are sending up more for you. The reason why it didn't flower on your ginger, it might be that you haven't fed it well enough. It was, like I keep saying, it was a very harsh summer. So the plants were grabbing all the nutrients they could to survive. So you might find that with a little bit more fertilizer, and check out what you're fertilizing with. Have a look at the back for the ingredients. And if it's really high in nitrogen, you possibly need to change to a different fertilizer also, because nitrogen, of course, we know that is for growth, green growth. So if you've got this beautiful plant with lots of green growth and lots of good foliage on it, but no flowers, it's often because we're feeding it the wrong fertilizer. So have a look at a more balanced fertilizer, something with a bit more potassium in it, and it'll help. Okay, so soil is the key, and it's the key for everything. Look, the foundation of anything, whether you're building a house or raising children or planting a garden, the foundation of that is the most important thing to do. That's where you know you're going to get good results. So the soil, it really is the key when you're gardening. If you're planting or buying a plant for your mum this Mother's Day, if you've got on there and got your bulbs already, you need to have some good soil for that. Or if you decide to go down to the garden centre and get her a few punnets of veggies, because she loves veggie gardening, then make sure that you've got the right soil for it. Scott's Performance Naturals premium mix is a fabulous potting mix. Scott's, it's got 3 months slow release fertilizer in it. It's fantastic for vegetables and things like that. It's got a higher nitrogen, and it's a fast acting nitrogen that they've got. It contains what they call Nature N, and it's a very good natural, rich in nutrient fertilizer. So it's all natural. It certainly works. I really like the way Scott's constantly look at not only producing a good product, but they also look at recycling. And everything they do, they consider it. So 50% of the plastic bag that they use on their goods is recycled plastic. And you can put these into the recycling, which is fantastic. So as much as it's not about the soil, I like the added fact that you can also be recycling with it. You know, if you're filling up veggie beds or anything, lots of pots of bulbs, say, you can easily go through 2 or 3, and they're big bags of plastic. So have a look at whatever premium potting mix you buy, and make sure that that particular company is following Scott's and doing a good job at recycling for us. But getting back to the soil, look, I love the fact that they've got a blood and bone in there, which has nitrogen and phosphorus in it. That's really healthy for good leaf growth and root development. And when you're planting something, that's what you want to start with, is good root development. So it's also high in calcium. There's a really high calcium content in it, and that gives you stronger stems. So have you ever seen, you buy a bunch of flowers, and gerbers tend to do it on me a lot, and sunflowers, and they're growing really nicely. And 2 days after you've bought them from the florist, they just bend over. And that is one because the cells have grown way too fast and they haven't had enough calcium in them to make them strong, just like our teeth. So yeah, look, it's a great product. If you're going to buy a potting mix, look at one like the Scott's Performance Naturals Premium Mix, or any good premium potting mix, but in particular this one, because it does have some great things in it that will help all your plants. Thanks to Scott's for that. I'm glad that they bring out such wonderful products. Look, don't forget to hit that like button. And also, just as a reminder, please put your suburb in so I can direct the answer to your question. Okay, so we're going to Wagga in New South Wales. And Ben says, "Hi, Joe. Can I prune my Japanese buxus now, or should I wait until spring? Thanks." In Wagga, I would probably tip prune only. If you're going to prune now, I would suggest that it won't be long before you start getting some heavier frosts, or at least some really cold weather. So I would wait until spring when that new growth is starting to happen. But if you find that you've got the odd branch that's looking really straggly or is out of control, then perhaps tip that off, or tip prune only if you need to bunch it out. I know here in Perth and in a number of areas in Australia, we'll still be getting some good growth. We've still got warm soil here. I'm not sure about Wagga, I'm sorry, whether it's really warm there still. But if your soil is still warm, you could possibly, and you're finding that you're getting growth on other things, you could then possibly look at no more than 30% of the plant. But yes, wait until spring would be the best one to go. Thanks, Ben. Okay, Christine in Stirling, and I'm assuming that's Stirling in WA. So Christine says, "Good morning to Joanne and all the others at Garden Guru Productions. I've just discovered citrus gall wasp on my daughter's dwarf lime, and I would love to know what your experience is with it and what you consider to be the best way to tackle the issue." I've already reported it. Well, thanks for doing that. That's really great, Christine, because I think that we need to report lots of things like that. Okay, so with regard to this, there's been some toing and froing about what the experts are saying. Originally, we all said cut it back, cut it out. So cut out, go back to the gall wasp and cut below that. Each time you make a cut, and this is with anything you're doing when it comes to pests and diseases, is wipe your blades of your secateurs with some bleach or even a lemon, just to get rid of the any pest that might have come on, or disease that might have come onto your blade, because you're going to transfer it to the next. So there are two ways of looking at it. The experts were saying to cut it out. And then there was a great thing came out, and I've used this way and I've managed to do it okay, but I can see why people are saying that it's not such a good idea also. And that's to get a potato peeler. And where you've got your gall, to shave that down so that you shave away the top, and you expose the line of the gall wasp where the pupae are. All right. And once you expose those to the sun, they die. Now, the problem that has happened to a lot of people is that when they're shaving it back, rather than shaving it back and keeping a good amount of the cambium layer of the cells of the plant, they're actually shaving it all around, and you're basically killing the plant, that part of the tree, because it can't then, the sap can't get up through it. You're ring barking it basically. So I think there's two ways you can look at it. If your tree is if it's a big lime or even a little lime, but it's got lots on it, I personally would probably try using the potato peeler method, because otherwise you're cutting it back to next to nothing. And have a look at it that way. If you've not got a lot of it, you might like to just prune it off. Okay. It's a really good idea to have a chat with your neighbours also and see if they've got it as well, and teach them or ask them what they're doing, and see if you can't get a bit of a gathering together, and you might have a gall wasp party and the neighbourhood could fix theirs. Because what I find is if you've got your neighbour hasn't bothered to do anything or is unknowing that it needs to be done, they just can continue to produce the pest for you, and it just keeps coming into your yard. So perhaps have a bit of a chat with your neighbour also. Good luck with that. Susan is in Northside in Brisbane, and she planted these trees 11 years ago. Okay, so Susan, unfortunately, you've sent us in a question where you're asking about some trees 11 years ago, and she said they were doing well for the last of years, but the one on the left died a year or two ago. Unfortunately, Susan, what you forgot to do was send in your photo. So I actually can't do that for you. But I'd love to do it. I love trees and I'm fairly good with trees. So how about next week? And by Wednesday, get that photo in. That's for everybody. If you've got any photos or questions, get it in by Wednesday, and then we can get that organised to be able to put it up on the screen and answer your question for you. So I'm really sorry, Susan, but at the moment I would be guessing all sorts of things and I wouldn't be able to help you. So we're off to Parkerville, which is up in the hills of Perth. And Greg has said, good morning, team. We're in Parkerville and our place is an ATU system for the sewerage. Currently in the process of replanting the garden beds, it waters, and wanting to know if grevilleas and other natives will be okay on such treated water. Yes, I think they will be. And I'm pretty sure they are, Greg. But what I am going to do is I'm going to check on that for you, because I'm just not exactly sure. So I'd like to get back to you on that one. So next week, I'll have an answer for you. Okay, we're off to Sydney, the other side of the country now. And Marina, just wondering if it's too late or too cold to repot orchid cymbidiums. Any tips? I don't think it would be in Sydney. I don't imagine that you're getting a frost or too cold, so you could repot those. It is a little bit late, but I think you could probably get away with it. Gillian's in Bendigo in Victoria, and my young jacaranda tree have aphids. Is this common? Also, what is the best bottle brush for a hedge? Okay, so my young jacaranda tree has aphids. Is it common? It's not common. It's not a common thing, but it's got them, so I will treat them for that. And you can use something like EcoFend, Success, or even just a Eco Oil, and to get rid of those. And what's the best bottle brush for a hedge? Look, there's quite a few. There's some really nice low-growing ones that have beautiful red growth, and I think one's called Red Rocket, or is it Red Blaze? And that's very different, isn't it? So, but it's red something, and it's fabulous. It's got this really wonderful red new foliage that grows through it. I like, there's a purple one out, which I'm really enjoying too. And the other one I like for a hedge is the Mary McCallop. It's a really pretty foliage, and it's an easy one to grow. And I love the deep, deep, deep red of the flowers on her tree. So hope that's helped you a bit. And sorry about your jacaranda, not sure why, but just treat them and they should go away. All right, so now we're heading back to Queensland, and it's at Ipswich. And Jan Morrissey would, should we lift gladiolo bulbs after they've flowered or leave them in the ground? Look, if you're in most areas of Australia, you can leave them in the ground. It's cool enough. Perhaps in Ipswich, I would be inclined to lift them after they've flowered. dust them off with sulfur and put them into a paper bag. I tend to keep mine in my linen cupboard, because a linen cupboard is generally a very dry area in your house, and it's often a warm area. So it'll warm, not as in hot, but it has warmth about it. So your bulbs will be safe in that sort of environment. Bulbs can be attacked by mites. So when you bring them out of the soil, if you let them dry off and then dust them with some sulfur before you put them in the bag, you'll be less likely to have this. If they were some hanging around, they'll be gone by the time you come to plant them again next year. Okay, excuse me a moment. Sandra, okay, we're staying up in Queensland. We're in Brisbane. And I'm just going to have a drink, sorry. Okay, Sandra's from Brisbane. Would you recommend topping tomato plants when they grow taller than our 6-foot stake? Goodness me. Thanks, loving your program. Thanks for the compliment, Sandra. It's great. Yeah, I would top them. You are really growing good tomatoes if they're getting taller than your 6-foot stakes. So, yes, I would top them. Get some good tomato fertilizer onto them too, and they might grow even taller. Jaffa, and we don't know where Jaffa is, but wondering what happened to my flowers. It has small flowers and leaves mostly fall off. Okay, I'm sorry, Jaffa. I'm not sure. Have we got a photo for that? No, there's no photo. So, okay, let's just talk a little bit broad then. So flowers, when they're small, it may be that you haven't fed them well or fed them the right fertilizer. And if your leaves are falling off, there's all sorts of reasons why that can happen. It can be a pest and disease. It could be that you are overwatering. If the leaves are going brown around the edges first, then before they fall off, then it could be that you've overwatered them. If they are going yellow and falling off, it may well be that you've underwatered them. So it's a little bit difficult to know exactly how to answer your question, Jaffa, but I hope that gives you a little bit of understanding. If your flowers are small, it's a really good idea just to look at what fertilizer regime you're doing, and then have a really good look at what your watering system is to know what's happening with those leaves falling off. Jaffa, perhaps next time put in where you're from. So let me know what suburb you're from, and perhaps send a photo in by Wednesday of this week, and we can help you even further. Okay. So we're off the Gold Coast. Gosh, we're really visiting Queensland today. And Charmaine, she has a self-sown grevillea, and it's about 1 year old and 6 foot tall, but it's not flowered. I'm not sure the parentage, as I have a few different ones around the yard. How long might it take until I get a flower, and what are the chances it might be completely new flower if it's a crossbreed from another's in my garden? Oh, wow, that would be really exciting. If that's the case, you really need to get hold of some of the plant breeders and see what you can do with that if it is another crossbreed. Sometimes it can take up to 3 years for a self-sown grevillea to flower, or it might be that it needs more fertilizer, less fertilizer, etc. So you've got to look at your fertilizing and where it's self-sown. Generally, things self-sown into an area where they most like it, but it can also happen that it's in an area that all of a sudden something else was planted there and it's too shady. So have a look at its situation. And what you're fertilizing it with. And yeah, if it's a crossbreed, get in touch with the plant growers and let's get that out onto the market. Okay, so we're down to Victoria, and Liz has asked, is it too late to plant spring bulbs in Mornington for e.g. tulips? No, it's not too late. Look, it's getting too late for lots of things. It's getting there. You need to get onto Garden Express, buy those bulbs that we were talking about earlier with David, and yeah, get them into the ground. Tulips, leave them in your fridge for a little bit longer. Maybe I know here in WA, I'll plant my tulips at the end in June. But it's a bit warmer here. So I think May is the latest that you should be planting tulips. So a bit jealous that you can plant tulips the way you can over there. Alan, he missed my answer earlier. Can you give me... Okay, so Alan, I actually don't know the quantities of water, sugar and Vegemite. I loosely know them. When I used to use that, I would use maybe a cup of water to a teaspoon of Vegemite to a tablespoon of sugar. You can use brown sugar, which is far less refined. So the less refined the sugar is, the better it is also. However, what I found in my own experience, which I get better results with, is by using a cup of cider vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and I put in a couple of drops of horticultural soap, so that it then it helps stick with it. I don't just put it in a container and put it under my tree. And I generally, on a large tree or a large, say a 3 to 4 metre size citrus, I would put 2 traps in those trees. But what I also do is I spray or put a little bit of that on top onto the leaf also, and spray it on. And what it does is it attracts the fruit fly to that side of the tree, so you're more likely to capture them in your trap. So thanks for coming back to us, Alan. Look, have you been enjoying our 20th anniversary series with the Garden Gurus? Before we wrap up, here's a sneak peek of what's about to come for episode 10.
Did you know that orchids come from every corner of the planet? There are 30,000 wild orchids, and they come from the coldest mountainous regions of the world to the warmest, most tropical rainforests.
Autumn brings beautiful changing colours and a little bit of leaf litter, which can make the garden look a little bit messy. But having a good blower is a staple in any garden shed. And if you're in the market for one, this one from Stihl is the perfect one. It's the BGA 57.
Now, I reckon the gift that really says I care is one that you have created with love yourself. So grab yourself a trolley, get out into the garden centre and start picking out all the different plants. Now, for my mum this Mother's Day, this is what her gift is going to look like.
Okay, so it's been a pretty hard and fast day today. Lots and lots of questions coming through, and we really appreciate them, and we're glad that you're enjoying the show. Look, don't forget, hit that like button. Robin, our wonderful producer here, will send out a message to all our seed winners after today's show. I'm actually back next Monday, filling in for Trevor again. So we'll see you next Monday for another session of the Garden Gurus Live at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Time and 10 p.m. for the WA viewers. Don't forget, you need to get your photos in by Wednesday next week so that we can get those up and be able to answer your questions for you. You can do that via Facebook. But also, one of the really important things for me is please state not just your name, but your state and suburb, and of course then the question that you're wanting to ask. Remember, you can always jump on the website and catch up with previous stories of the Garden Gurus at gardengurus.tv or on your YouTube channel, which is also the gardengurus.tv. You can listen back to today's live stream and catch up on previous episodes at Spotify, Apple Podcast, and also Audible. And don't forget, tune into Channel 9 this Saturday at 4:30 p.m. local time to catch episode 10 of the Garden Gurus Autumn 2022. Have a wonderful week. Until I see you next week, happy gardening.